Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 24 of Typewriter Talks. I'm Maureen McDowell, the founder and executive director of Keep St. Pete Lit. We are a literary arts organization based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And today we have with us Wayne Williams,
Hello.
who I've known for quite a while, and he is a poet and Largo's Poet Laureate. Thank you so much, Wayne, for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is a real treat.
So tell us what you're working on right now.
Well, I just retired in February and then COVID hit. So I've been kind of getting used to a different life. I mean, I'm retired the first time in 51 years that I've not gone to a job every day. And I don't really know how to act right now. So a lot of odds and ends on the shelf. I want to finish a Thoreau book that I started last year, and I've dragged out Steinbeck, The Pearl, and I'm really into, I'm reading a lot of information on poets for my Poets Live biography that I do each month. So that keeps me busy with that. And then, of course, this is my favorite time of year, as it is with most poets and writers and a lot of artists. But I got out Galway Kinnell, who's one of my favorite natural poets. And so that's pretty much keeping me busy right now.
Tell us about your Poets Live.
Poets Live is a once-a-month thing, and we started it in 2006, and we of course just celebrated our 14th year, and we've got about 150 people on my email list, and I send out a prompt each month, and people write to the prompt. They don't have to, but they write to the prompt, and to make mine different from most of the other venues that I've seen and gone to over the years is I decided to do some research on a particular poet. So I'll pick a different poet each month. I will do some research and study on their biography, build my own little mini biography with that. Then I will go and find them on YouTube or whatever sources I can find with their videos of them reading. I'll download those, I'll put it into a video clip, and then I will read their biography during the session, and then I will play this clip. And hopefully it introduces people to other poets. I mean, I've introduced myself to some poets that I never thought I would read or listen to, but I took the dive in to do it and found that their work was beautiful. Though it might not be my style or my era, it's beautiful work. So it's really been a nice thing. People look forward to hearing the biography and learning about new poets and buying new books because of it. I think that I've helped promote some books for people in that way, just for our group, which is nice. Anything to promote poetry.
And then you have a writing prompt.
And then I have a writing prompt, and I'll usually, the writing prompt for September was to sit down with somebody across from you. And it doesn't have to be a real person or family member, or you could be a fictional character completely or somebody else in history. And you sit there, and the prompt is, while I've got you here, this is what I want to ask you. That's the prompt.
Ooh, I like that.
And you take, and that's just one. Sometimes it'll be just a single word. Sometimes it'll be an idea. Sometimes I will do groups of 3 groups with about 6 or 8 words in each group. And I'll tell them to pick any word from each of the 3 groups, put those 3 words together. That's the title of your poem. And that's the poem that you need to write using those 3 words.
I like that. Yeah.
So we just have different interesting things. And I'll tell you, if I don't get that out right away for people who want to write these things, I hear about it. They're on there typing. Where's my prompt? Where is it?
Oh, yeah.
They can't think, their own prompt up and write for themselves, but it's an expectation. And it's kind of fun that I've been able to kind of create that excitement and energy for what we're going to be doing in the upcoming month.
Clearly like how your brain works with the prompts you're coming up with.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
And what is your role as a poet laureate for Largo?
Well, it's commensurate with the salary, which is 0. There is really no responsibility. It's just I think that when Casey McPhee came to me, and she's the director of the library, she, I think that she wanted to give back what I had given, what I have been giving and continue to give and will continue to give until they shovel in the dirt, as far as I know, back to poetry in the library in Largo. And, it's, again, there's no responsibility. They've never asked anything of me. And if they do, that would be great. I mean, I'm ready for that, but they have not. And that's kind of where we are.
So it's really just a kind of a title to.
Yeah, it's a honorary thing right now. And I mean, maybe it's up to me to build something for it. But I think what I'm doing, I mean, each of the U.S. poet laureates was tasked with $100,000 and a program that they were supposed to put together that would become a national thing. And many poets, a lot of the poets have done that, of course, over the years. And many of those things are continued to this day, not from their time they were the laureate, but still continue to this day. And, I think that I do that with Poets Live right now. It's a solid contribution. It's a local contribution. And, and that's kind of where it is.
So what is your writing process like?
Ooh, that's a good one. I am not the person who has an area with their pens all laid out and their typewriter or their whatever device it is and all of that, and they have to go there every day and sit down. I cannot do that. In fact, in my old house, and I can't do that now in my smaller apartment, but in my old house, I used to have a card table. And I would take that card table and I would move it around to different places. One day it was in front of the fireplace. One day it would be in the dining room. One day it would be out on the porch. And there would be times I would put it in one of my kids' rooms and they'd come in and they go, "Oh, hi, Dad." And they knew what I was doing. I was writing, but I was just using the ambience of wherever I was in whatever room it was in the house to write. And I mean, I pull my writing from everything. I don't have any one source. I love music. I love painting. I love traditional authors. I love poetry. Whatever it is, I can draw from that. And that's what I fill as you can see behind me, that's what I fill my life with all the time. And that's where I get my prompts from.
Yeah, I met you at the Venture Compound, which is no longer, is that right? Yeah. Venture Compounds, yeah, with Jesse Vance's space.
Yeah, that was a great place.
Noise music shows. That was early.
Those some of the best, 6 best years I can remember in this area is when they were in existence, and I would go there all the time.
Yeah, I always saw you there, and no air conditioning, just a warehouse, and the warehouse.
Didn't matter. Everything was on the edge, experimental and trying new things. It was not usually very crowded. It allowed you to get right up to the performers and they could walk off the stage and you talk to them. And, it was a great, great place.
Had an art gallery where they had really just avant-garde art that I was not seeing anywhere else. And I loved, my favorite part besides all of that was that he had his sponsors hand, like with a black magic marker written on the side of the building when you walk in, because I grew up going to punk rock clubs and it just felt like I was just like back at home in that space.
I love one of his rules: don't get on the roof.
That's a good rule.
That was a good rule.
Don't get on the roof. Oh gosh, yeah. When that closed, that was the end of an era for sure.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I missed that place.
I know, and it's wild. I was telling you before we started recording, our offices are going to be right across the street at the factory, and it feels like almost like a full circle for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to come down there and check it out.
A little bit of that, kind of out of the box programming back into that space. So we'll see what comes once things. They're a little behind with their build out, but because of COVID. But we'll see.
Sure,
they're open to ideas and. And that area is just right for the Warehouse Arts District. It's just like, it's like an incubator.
Right.
All kinds of cool things there.
It's always been an edgy area. Yeah. That's what I like about it. There's nothing commercial about it. And I hope that it stays that way. I hope that the the guy who's writing some weird stuff shows up, and some gal who's welding things that like people are just going to go, wow, okay. But I hope that that's the kind of thing that it turns into, where you know, and that's what I always felt about what was cool about the Venture Compound is, you know, it to me, it had the old CBGB or the old Beaux-Arts feel to it, where it was going to create something historic that people at some point in the future are going to go, do you remember that time, that place?
Right now.
It's up on stage right now. You know where you used to play? At the Venture Compound. And I still feel that way, that there are going to be people from that time who got their start there, brought the energy there, and became something because of that place.
Yeah. We need places like that. Like,
yes.
I think about it, like, even if everything fell apart with Keep St. Pete Lit, I could still perform in a parking lot.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, like everybody just faces their cars with their headlights and we perform in the middle of that. And
sure, why not? Right?
That's a venue, you know, like, it's funny. So what are some of your major themes in your writing?
Oh boy. I don't know. I guess I like melancholy a lot, but I am an observer of life and the frailties of love and that sort of thing. I'd say that's the main thing. I love humor in poetry, like a Billy Collins or Tony Hoagland, those kind of guys, but I just can't. It just doesn't come to me as natural as looking at things in a kind of a serious vein and going with that.
Well, yeah, I've had all different types of writers on here, and I mean, some of them have said one of my major themes is loss. You know,
sure.
You know, it's about transformation. It's about this. It's about you know. It just depends on what your lens is and what.
Well, I think that's the reality of it, is that the best writing to me is what's real. It's what really affects you and what has affected you and the way that you react to that.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to get your most honest, heartfelt, detailed poetry, I think.
So why poetry? Why do you think, why does poetry appeal to you over prose?
Wow. Well, I have to tell you that my parents divorced and we moved down here in 1966. So I've been in this area for a long time. But at 14, a year later, I happened to run into this band called The Doors.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a gentleman named Mr. Jim Morrison on there who was
singing
some things. And Mom had me listening to Elvis and this and that, but then I heard this Jim Morrison guy and it's like, damn, the power of words never came through with anybody like it did with Morrison. And from those early days, I was taken by the power of words and poetry. Back then, I wanted to be a songwriter and guitarist in a band, but I couldn't remember anything from week to week, so that would never work. I could never remember songs. So, but that was the catalyst for me, is Jim Morrison and The Doors. You know, a lot of people get different starts in different ways. That was my beginning to the power of words. And I lost poetry for a long time and picked it up probably about 25 years ago again, by just sheer happenstance of walking into a Barnes and Noble and hearing this clapping in the back of this group store. And I said, what's going on back there, to the cashier? And I was buying a book. She said, oh, it's a poetry group. So I walked back there. Sat down in the chair in the back of the group, and this wonderful old gentleman who's no longer with us, named Art Moore, walked over to me and he said, are you a poet? I said, I like to think so. And he said, well, come on in and join us. And from that moment on, and I got to know Art, great old guy. I said, I don't even know where to begin with meeting up with people. He said, well, you can come here because we're always in here. But if you want, let me write down a list of places you can go and I'll meet you there if you want to. So he would go, I'd meet him there. He'd introduce me to all these different people that were into poetry. And then I started taking my daughter, and she was a young girl at the time. She was only 14. And I said, you're going to probably hear things you're not used to,
Yeah,
but you
now.
know what? You can ask me about it. I'll be honest with you about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to censor you. I want you to understand life. And we used to head to all the different Bohemia. What was the place? Cafe Bohemia down there.
Yeah.
In Tom's place when he moved it down to downtown St. Pete for a while in that old storefront. And so those were the beginning days. Mm-hmm. That's where I got my inspiration to go. And I have no education in it. I've got to be upfront right there. I am I guess the word is autodidact. I taught myself everything I know, and that goes the same with guitar playing and writing and poetry and video work, 3D computer animation. I've been all of those different careers in my life, and I've taught myself how to do them, and I've been successful. I've been an artist and making a living off art for the last 35 years. It's gotten me everything that I own today, you know?
Yeah, same.
So.
Same. Yeah, just kind of create your own reality.
Yes.
Learn as you go. I mean, I have an English major, but I didn't go to an MFA for poetry, and I just self-published my books and created Keep St. Pete Lit because I thought it would be fun.
It worked out pretty well too.
Yeah, let your curiosity lead you and see where it goes. And
right.
Yeah, I get it.
The way I look at it is somebody had to write the book in the beginning, kind of arrogant, I guess, but somebody wrote the book. Why can't I be the guy who develops these things and understands it and learns from, the books are out there. You learn from the masters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I mean, I have a book that I love that I'm going to show you right now. It's called Best Words, Best Order. Is that reversed on your screen?
It's fine. It says
okay.
Reversed. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And this was written by Stephen Dobbins. And as you can see, it's marked up pretty well.
I've heard of that book, so thanks for sharing.
But that is a great book. It's my favorite book that I've ever read on the creation of poetry and talking about it and thinking about it. In fact, I taught for 2 years over at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, and this was the book that I used to.
I'm gonna have to order it
to create that great book.
I love it. So, what would you tell your younger writer self? What piece of advice would you give your younger writer?
Wow. That is a really very, very difficult question. Is just slow down, look at things around you, be passionate about it. Don't be afraid to write whatever it is. If it comes off as sophomoric or whatever it is, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Your vocabulary, your way to put things together, the things that you learn about writing itself, that'll all come to you and it will improve. But get started, just do it. And the thing about poetry, at least for me, is that I couldn't not do it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Yeah.
You hear words and you understand the power of it, and it's all about communication with everybody that you know, everybody that you meet. It's all about communication. And that is the greatest communication there ever was. And then you compress it down, you find the metaphors within it, you expand it for other people in a very odd way. Is your compression becomes their expansion on.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Your compression becomes their expansion.
That's how you convey a thought on a simpler scale into a medium that's usually fairly short, and then they read it and then they grow it from there. So.
Yeah, that's what I love about poetry. Like I'm such an intense person. I can get all these intense thoughts down in this condensed space. Like I can really say all that on one page. Yeah. Oh my God. This is like I remember when I first really discovered poetry when I was 20 at college and wrote 5 poems. And I was like, it's okay to feel this way, this intense and write this intensely in this short of space. And that's a poem. Oh, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. So, so who are some of your favorite authors?
Oh, wow. I did prepare that because I figured you would ask me that. So I'm going to run down on this. And first, let me say that I have been very, very fortunate to take two very intense workshops with a gentleman named Thomas Laux, a wonderful, wonderful nationally known poet, and C.K. Williams, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning poet. I got to sit 3 feet away because nobody else wanted that chair, and I got in late, and I had to sit right next to him. But it was an incredible, incredible lesson. I mean, I got some great compliments for him too. I wrote a poem about this painter who goes to this one place, and it's got the picture of a sun in the middle of it, and that's where he sets up his easel. But it has a little girl who comes in, and she's afraid. She's with her parents, and they say, "Sit down, we want." And he looked at me, CK. He goes, "You wrote the poem I wanted to write." Wow. And I looked at him. I said, "What?"
What a
he goes, "Yeah, it was really nice." He said, "I was on a subway, and I was reading, and there was a little girl in the seat in front of me, and she peeked her head over the top, and she kind of waved at me like that. She wanted to just say hi." And he said, "That's what I was feeling when I heard what was going on in the poem."
Yeah.
So that was a really super, super nice thing for him to say. And I clarified what surrealistic poetry was, because he's not a surrealist poet and he just didn't understand it. So that was kind of fun. But other than that, those were my two big connections. And so you asked me to tell you about, so I'm just going to go down my list. And I've got Tom Lux, who I love that guy. Both he and CK have passed. They both of them, it was very much a surprise, but they both passed. But Charles Bukowski, Billy Collins, Walt Whitman, Dorianne Laux, Maya Angelou, Emily Dickinson, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, CK, of course. And I love the Beats with Kerouac, Ginsberg, William Burroughs, Gary Sanders, Gregory Corso. And then we have James Baldwin, Wendell Berry, Henry David Thoreau, Galway Kinnell, Phillip Levine, Amiri Baraka, and Sexton, Tony Hoagland, Baudelaire, Hart Crane, and Wallace Stevens. And that's just kind of a nice, the people that I like. And there are a lot of different styles in there. I mean, everything from imagist poets to some that do formalist stuff, but it's all good. I love poetry just for the, I always think of, oh, that guy sat down at a typewriter and this is what he wrote. And that's so cool. There's something about reading the words that I can go, separate myself from the poetry of it and enjoy the process of it too.
It's interesting. Like I just read James Baldwin's book, Another Country, for our book club. And I brought this up because it's still like resonating with me, but just to like think of him sitting somewhere and writing these words and like, dreaming up these characters, and the same with like reading poems, like reading Emily Dickinson's poems, like it's like time travel.
Yes.
You just imagine her in her house, in her family's house, and like just writing on scraps of paper. And
oh, have you seen the series on Apple Plus?
I started it. It's funny because I'm really conscious of my time right now. So if I'm not 100% invested in something, I move on to something else. So I did start it. I need to finish it. I think I was in the mood.
They're really good. They're really
I
good.
heard that, and I don't think I was in the mood for it when I started watching. I think I might have been in a darker mood. I don't know what, but I just wasn't in that.
What they've done is they've taken Emily and her story and they brought it up into a modern language,
I've seen like,
which is really very interesting. I didn't think I'd like it at first, but then as you start going through, it's like, this fits. It's like, that probably is exactly who Emily Dickinson was. She was a bit of a rebel. She did it anyway. She published her poetry when her father distinctly said, "Do not publish your work. It's not open and due." She said, "I'm going to do it anyway." So I think the TV show really gives you a strong impression of who she probably really was. And they have really cool music.
With the modern soundtrack.
Well, they put Billie Eilish.
I know.
In there. It's so good. So good.
I love the lead actress too.
Yeah, she's good.
So, and what are you reading right now?
Um, I'm not really reading right now. I know that's a terrible thing to say,
Okay, we'll
but
forgive you.
I really don't have anything that I'm particularly into. I've been trying to get this set up with the computer, a lot of technical manual. I love technical manuals. It's crazy. I really enjoy reading technical manuals. There's something about the construction of things that just like poetry, the construction of it is
Oh,
very interesting to me. So I don't have one particular book. I'm probably going to start the Pearl by Steinbeck.
I've got that in my to be read pile.
Cool. We should read that together sometime.
I know. I want to dive into Steinbeck. I feel like
Yes, he's an important author.
Yeah, yeah. I really I have that and Mice and Men in my to be read pile.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Okay.
both slim volumes, and it's like,
Yeah.
just grab it and open it up and read it. So yeah, that's the exact copy I have. That is it Vintage Classics or something? Who does?
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, I have those exact copies of that. So
Penguin.
so where do you go for inspiration? You said art and music and you get
I am I'm a huge ambient music fan. Not new age, because new age introduces beat and rhythm and all of that, but I like ambient music. I'm a huge Brian Eno fan, Steve Roach fan. And the reason I draw so much from it is because it has always allowed me to create an ambient wall between me and the outside world. If there's lawnmowers going on, if there are people, there's noise, whatever it is in the building, whatever it is, if I put on ambient music, it allows me to crawl inside of that, and that is my buffer against all of the other things that are going on. So I love ambient music. And of course, as I said earlier, I have an appreciation for art. I have many, many art books, Dali and John Singer Sargent and Pinot. I just have a fascination with the act of creating itself, and I draw from that all the time. Those are my main things. And I like finding people like Bradley Coquet. I mean, it's just wonderful to find new artists that you go, wow, there's just something about. And of course, it's all black and white. It's dark, and I've always been drawn to that sort of thing as well. So.
You look like a black and white photograph right now.
Do I? Well,
yeah, well, I mean, with a little color, but your shirt's colored, but the rest all looks like a black and white.
Right. I'm very pale. I haven't been outside since March, so.
I swim laps 3 days a week at the pool, and that's where my coloring comes from.
I'm too afraid to get out there, man. I've heard these stories of people, and I had the flu just before I retired. I had a bad flu, and I literally could not breathe. There were days when
already.
And I don't want to go through that again. I just published on my Facebook page, there was another WHO report today that said Europe right now, today, just like 2 hours ago, they put out a report that said that the new renewal of COVID is worse than it was when it first came out in March. That's how hard it's hitting Europe right now.
No, let's hope this nightmare ends soon.
And with the guidance we have in this country, I don't want to take any chance.
Yeah, everybody vote.
Yeah, please.
We're kind of bleeding over here, but please vote.
Yeah.
So one more question. What would be your holy grail piece of writing advice?
Oh,
did you write it down?
I did actually think about that one too. I know what it is. When I get stuck, or if I'm in this funk and I really want to write, I've got the time and I feel like there's something in there, I have taught myself, I put the ambient music on first, and then I've taught myself to look at the little things. Mm-hmm. It could be the corner of a room. It could be a knob on something. It could be a paint scratch. It could be the way the pattern of light comes through the blinds and is sitting on that place in the floor. Stop with the big stuff. You're swirling with all these big ideas and all this stuff, and it's so hard to pull something out of that. But if you stop yourself, you forcibly stop yourself from doing that, and you find some little thing that you can focus on, inspiration can come from that small thing, or because you're looking at it and it's such a boring small thing that you're looking at, whatever it may be, your mind starts to go off on its own and saying, I've got something a little more creative in here for you.
I love
And
that.
that works for me every single time. Is just stop,
yeah.
Slow down, put on that wall that allows you to get away from the outside world. Find those small things in life, a buttonhole, a tear in a shirt, a memory, whatever it is, some little thing that you can call on, and allow that to expand from there.
The compression leads to the expansion.
Yes.
I love that. So you have some work to share with us?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have, I think I brought my book in here. What did I do with it? There it is. I've got a book of poetry for those who might be interested. It's on blurb.com. But I'm going to read the title poem from this book called The Trunk. And this was the day I went up to Washington, D.C. after my father had passed. It was 10 days after my 30th birthday, a cool January day in D.C. I turned from the window 7 stories up and walked through the retirement apartment rooms. Dad had passed away. In the bedroom sat his storage trunk, located the same as it was in every place we lived, right next to his bed. This was the untouchable mystery box, the treasure chest I was forbidden to enter, olive green and worn. Had it been 5 years, 10 years, I wondered? Its corners and edges were braced with metal plates, the draw bolts tough as my father's hands, and a flush mount lock kept the world at bay. I found the key in a bedside table barely 5 feet from the slot it was built to fit, simple, flat, shiny as mint coins. It spun the mechanism freely, eagerly. The plate clicked, sprang open, the 2 clasps clattered free. And as I raised the lid to peer inside, I thought about the emotional distance my father seemed to foster, endure. Every day he roared with diatribes toward bosses and coworkers, found reasons to revile would-be friends as shadowy souls of the other village. And in his relentless onslaught, his relentless rage, he even drove us away, wife and son, 1,400 miles. No voice, no opinion audible but his own. The only pets he would have were fish, he told me once, because they never made a sound. Mm. And I thought about his consequent decades of Spartan human exchange reduced to a media life, the paper solace of 3,000 books, the floor piled with the remains of inked crosswords, and the vinyl voices of Bennett, Sinatra, Vale, and Como, who he mimicked like a twin. In fact, it was Como's LP which kept trying to end Shakik, 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 when the care staff, whom he just trusted too, found him fetal posed in that small apartment hall. No one really knew what molded him, broke him, maybe one thing, maybe everything. Those early days of desperate Michigan farm life, 10 brothers and sisters he helped raise, the Depression, and later his inner turmoil to rise above his 4th grade education, warbird zeros that pounded his position on Saipan, the deaths, the drinking, or the failures, his brushes with love and hate. Inside the trunk, a silver shotgun, coins of Indian Head and Buffalo, catalogs of collected stamps, a scrapbook, its opening leaf of newspaper photos, Flint tornado before and after. Just missed us, he wrote across the page beside a pointing arrow. Aluminum scraps pounded into jewelry links from the wreckage of shot down enemy planes, in a box of its own, a battle flag, the rising sun emblazoned with the organic forms of Eastern words. A note printed on a floppy brim that said, "This sailor cap traded for my army hat aboard our ship for home." Photographs with smiling faces, his first wife I never knew, a daughter I never saw, pastel paintings by him of his little girl, Cassatt would certainly applaud. Marilyn Monroe in a calendar pose, on, the odds and ends with sweet drifts of memorabilia. And then came the stunning deconstruction of his bitter image, the moments that broke me down, as I held letters saved, which began, "Hi, Dad, mine from long ago." Beside them, I found sentiment in folds of thin white paper, cherished by a man with a heart I seldom heard, two fragile plastic figures, a Roman soldier, a Viking warrior, toys left behind on that day we boarded up for Florida, kept as enigmatic links to his distant lineage. And when I finally closed Dad's trunk of revelations on those petals amid the thorns, it felt peaceful, like forgiveness.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. I have goosebumps. That was so beautiful.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love the way you ended it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Wayne. Thank you for sharing. And give me a minute. Ooh.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. Your poem moved me. That was so beautiful.
The first 2 or 3 years that I read that, I cried every time I read it.
My dad just turned 76 and my mom's 71. And I just heard something like, people that don't see their family a lot, they think like, oh, I might have 5 more years with my father or 5 more years with my mother. But it's like, if you're only seeing them like 1 or 2 times a year, you may only have like 10 more times to see them. You know what I mean? Like if you only see this person like every couple years, you might only have 1 more time to see them. And if you like think of it like that, it's like cherish. My mother lives downstairs for me, and I'm so
nice.
Yeah, like right after this is over, I'm gonna go down and have a cup of coffee with her. And my dad doesn't live far away, and I'm just so grateful that
that is awesome.
You know, I love them both, but sometimes they drive me crazy. But I just go, I'm so glad I still have both my parents, and
absolutely.
You know, and they're still, you better vote, and you know, they're both reading books, and they're all interested in art and the news and the current events, and it's just like, I'm so grateful to have.
Well, I approach it from the other side. I'm 67 now.
Yeah.
And I'm not a young man, you know, and I have my son and my daughter who I love so dearly. And I'm going to feel bad for them because we're going to miss each other.
I know. I'm so close with my daughter. She's 14 and she's an artist like me, and she's in her side of the apartment and does her art. Like, this is her art here.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Very
like
nice.
14.
Wow. She's great.
She did that in 2019. So she was 12 or 13 when she did this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm living with an artist, and it's like, it's such
that's how my kids are as well.
Yeah.
I mean, my son's going for his master's in marine biology. He's been certified to do deep research on deep dives. He's over at USF helping teach over there. My daughter is a musician. She's an artist herself, poet herself. So I know where you're coming from. It's such a rewarding, wonderful thing to watch your kids grow into the people that they are.
I agree.
And my son is 31 now. I mean, I can't imagine a 31-year-old son, for crying out loud. My daughter's 28.
I know, like she went into high school this year, and I go, what?
Yeah.
It was a little like, I feel this sense of relief because she's growing up and moving into the world, but then it was also like, boy, what it took to get here. Not with her, but just, you know, life is tough. Life challenges, relationships, jobs, all the stuff. So Wayne, thank you for being here with us on Typewriter Talks, and we appreciate you. And
thank you for letting me.
Have a link at the bottom of this where people can sign up for your website, email, all the stuff.
Okay.
And, thank you so much for joining us for episode 23 of Typewriter Talks. We will be back next Tuesday for episode 24. And if you want to know more about Keep St. Pete Lit, we have online classes, book clubs, open mics, all kinds of stuff. You can go to keepstpetelit.org. And we are going to leave a donation link at the bottom of this too. Please, if you love Typewriter Talks, help support our programming, because we are a nonprofit, and you help to, the more money we receive, the less grants we have to write.
Maureen, I have to say thank you for having me. I had an incredible time. It went very well. And I just think that what you guys are doing down there is just fabulous. Just fabulous.
What you're doing up there. It's funny, in Pinellas County. He's up in
We're all together. We're all artists and writers together.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next week.
Have a great day.